So this talk originally was scheduled to feature Lorraine Nowlin and Suzanne Vierling. Suzanne was unable to make it and she was very much missed. So I will go ahead and introduce both of them as Lorraine will be reading remarks that Suzanne has written for us. So Lorraine Nowlin is a mother and radical feminist activist based in Connecticut. She is a passionate advocate for women and children with a particular focus on victims of male violence. Lorraine is a former WDI USA board member and facilitator of the organization's Black Women's Caucus. She runs The Radical Woman at https://lorrainenowlin.substack.com. Her commentary focuses on women's safety and well-being, religion, book talks, current events, and more. And Dr. Suzanne Vierling is an educator and author who examines how the erasure of women intersects with the Fourth Industrial Revolution. She speaks on how rapid innovation in a post-human culture risks commodifying womanhood and inspires audiences to imagine a future that fully values women as whole human beings. So if you'll all join me in welcoming Lorraine.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Our work is vital. And if you are just as on edge with the goings on in our country and world as I am, replace your uneasiness with resolve. Let's not allow women 100 and 200 years in the future to read about feminists in our era and realize that they are in the same spot as we are now. It is a must that we move forward. Staying stagnant is not an option. If we don't break barriers, women in the future will be dealing with the same problems we are now or worse. Speaking of barriers, I run a Substack, and I was surprised to see that one particular post I created surpassed all of my other posts in hits and likes, and in a much shorter time. It was the talk I gave for the WDI International Conference in London. I was actually virtual. It was the importance of prioritizing sex over race. I was puzzled at first, but then it dawned on me that women are looking for a unifying voice in the midst of all this chaos. Safety in the midst of fear-mongering. Acceptance in the midst of rejection. Women are looking for something. And while radical feminism doesn't have all the answers to every question, we can undoubtedly provide sanctuary for women fleeing the turmoil in their communities. But are we a sanctuary? Can women from all walks of life come into our circles to organize and fight for much needed change? We've got some barriers that need to be removed. Why should barriers be destroyed? Although we are here in the US, obviously, I'm thinking of women throughout the world. As you all know, the US isn't the only country where women need to be liberated. Women's liberation is not possible without breaking barriers, and here's why. I will be very blunt and state that no self-respecting woman would or should partner with women who do not respect her, or worse, would hinder her right to live safely in our world. Unfortunately, we are all at risk of falling into that trap when we allow ourselves to be subject to barriers and obstacles. That means there is no unity, and if there's no unity, there's no liberation. Two of the biggest obstacles to unity, from my observations, are race and politics. I recall a recent but short response made by British politician Nigel Farage to the self-described British Muslim patriot Zia Youssef during what some believe was an inspiring speech on the migrant crisis in the UK. When Youssef responded to the question, "What about Afghan women seeking asylum?" Youssef responded, unfortunately, exactly as I thought he would. Especially when they're speaking of women they deem less acceptable. It's no secret that Afghan women are experiencing unspeakable horrors. They are being beaten and killed for being women. He responded by pitting women against each other. He declared that the British should be more concerned about the welfare of British women. The women of his religion were given no consideration at all. But back to the point. Nigel Farage just replied, "Yup." If that's not an example of why women should prioritize being women over race, culture, or religion, I don't know what is. You are not a priority to most men. And as I listened to their attempt to divide women and pit women against each other, I thought, I wish one white woman would stand up and say, no, those women may not be your people, but as my fellow women, they are my people, and I want my people safe. I am not aware that anyone has. So I would like to say to the women of the global South, I see you, I value your voice, and I will not stay silent about your plight. And women's liberation just might come through you. My goal is to address the need for much more participation in the women's liberation movement from women from all walks of life. Our movement needs more active members to advance. I'm not necessarily suggesting billions, but as many as it takes all over the world. Our opponents, the women's enslavement movement, actually known as patriarchy, would have us believe that diversity is not our strength. That's easy to say when you are sitting in the seat of power. Women can't afford to reject diversity in our circles. So diversity is not simply an option, it's crucial. We need representative of all nations in our ranks. And I know that politics is also a divisive issue. So, and I know that we can't call either party our friend, again, going back to the United States Democrats and Republicans. So what do we do about politics? Until we have a political party that looks out for women, we'll have to spread our influence everywhere. Our goal should not be to support a party for the party's sake, but make sure that the party works for women. And I know that's not easy, but that's what we have to do. Acceptance is a two-way street. While we demand that white women be more accepting, Black women and women of color must be willing to participate and work alongside white women. Because a lot of times the onus is put on white women, that's not really beneficial. Women with various political affiliations should also work on our common goal. The onus is on all of us, all of us. We need actionable strategies for women to unite and collaborate. These strategies can specifically address our barriers like we are doing here at this convention, or we can be as strategic as showing up on the broader issues of women together. Just imagine the impact of us having each other's backs, and we are called racists, Nazis, coons, etc. When women lose out on rights and opportunities, we have to remember that means all of us, not just some of us. Us, meaning members of the female sex, or female people, as sister separatists would say. In some states, women don't have the right to make their own reproductive choices anymore. The Center for Reproductive Rights shows us that Georgia and Florida are among the states with a 6-week abortion ban. I mean, think about when most women find out they're pregnant. It's around 6 weeks, so technically that could be considered a ban, period. The organization also shows us that there are criminal penalties attached to abortion in Texas. I've said it before, and I need to repeat it. Women do not have the same opportunities as long as men claiming a female gender identity can encroach on our opportunities. There's reproductive rights, and then all of the men claiming to be women. 2 ways that we are all impacted, not just some of us. We cannot remove these obstacles if we are divided. And as for the key, I feel that we should prioritize women, regardless of background, culture, or religion. Prioritize women over everything else. Remember, if we are divided, then we can be conquered, or as popular wisdom goes, a house divided against itself cannot stand. I'll use the sports analogy that I used once before. Unity among the team is essential to achieve victory. Can you imagine the Yankees allowing personal differences to impact them on the field? What if you are on a team cooking contest? Can you imagine your teammates doing their own thing with the recipe? Do you think you'd win? You won't. We can apply this principle to the radical feminist movement. The quickest way to lose a battle is to scatter and divide the opposing team. These divisions lead back to the same source, patriarchy and male supremacy. They benefit, we don't. Again, divide women and you will conquer women. We also have to acknowledge our faults. Again, black women and women of color, from my experience, tend to be very resistant to feminism. And in fairness to them, the racial animosity that we sometimes experience from white women plays a role in that. I remember years ago in the late 90s, early 2000s, I had some, unfortunate experiences that did not heal until recent years getting involved with WDI. Let me give another example. Many are concerned about illegal immigration, but please remember, when you speak out against it, there is a woman or a girl who may be sent back to a dangerous situation. The same situations you feel women should be free from. We can debate all day and all night about it being mostly dangerous men coming over the border. Whether it's one woman or 1,000, women still need sanctuary. You may ask, well, I don't think anybody here is asking this, but some people may ask, why don't they stay in their country and fight? And I would humbly ask that person, how specifically would you fight the Taliban or the brutal gangs in Haiti? Or how would you fare if you were a woman or girl in Gaza right now? Women don't have the capacity to protect ourselves militarily yet. So we have to try a different tactic until we get there one day. Women need sanctuary. But let us also not forget that American women have been victims of men here illegally. Larissa Sherelle Thompson, a black mother from South Carolina who was killed by a group of males in the country illegally. Rachel Morin, a white woman. Laken Riley, and more recently, Dakara Thompson. There are more. We break barriers when we recognize that we have common struggles and unique needs, as well as both differences and shared oppressions. Our similarities. All women suffer under patriarchy, but in varying degrees. We have to admit that. But white women being treated better than black women does not mean white women are treated well. How I approach black women and women of color is to remind them that the purpose is not to connect with white women and ignore racism. It's to recognize that there is a shared experience that we all have to be free from. I'm not saying that connection is a negative thing, I'm just saying it's not the point here. Your whole focus should not be on race. For example, reproductive rights are not a black or Asian issue, it's a women's issue, regardless of our race. Black men and Asian men don't have to worry about access to abortion or maternal mortality. Also Native American women. According to the Indian Law Center, 1 out of 5 Native American and Alaska Native women experience violence. 1 out of 2 has experienced sexual violence. Alaska Native women experience domestic violence more than all other women in the United States, as per the Indian Law Center. Asian American women and Pacific Islander women are not immune to sex-based violence. The National Domestic Violence Hotline shows that it's as high as 55% among Asian women, domestic violence. So when trying to reach out to black women, remember that we are expected to prioritize racial struggles over sexism. So it's critical to show how we are impacted. You also have to keep in mind that she may have been conditioned to see things like rape and domestic violence as secondary. In other words, we might question whether or not a woman is telling the truth, but we would never question a black man and his claims of racism. Seeing women's issues as secondary requires that you ignore your needs as a woman, which in turn, and in our case, only benefits black men, but that's also men of all races. As a matter of fact, the women's liberation message is damning to the perpetual victim narrative that men from minority groups face. Take a look at all of the horrors of the grooming gangs in England. A white woman dares to speak out about her victimization. She's called a racist because we can't, make those men look bad. Horrific. But women will be left at a loss because our needs will not be met. So I believe a practical strategy, is to remind women of the data. Identify their primary threats and be honest about who holds all the power and who doesn't. Black women in particular need to be reminded that due to our lack of power, it would benefit us to have allies among those with more power than we have. The issue is, we are so comfortable acknowledging our need for men, but we also have to recognize that we need white women as well. I've seen that in my own life in activism. But this need isn't one-sided. White women need black women and women of color as we all travel towards liberation. Black women and women of color, again, need to know how women's liberation will benefit them. Black women experience some of the highest rates of male violence, some. So one of the goals of women's liberation is to be free from all forms of male violence. I, for one, feel it's critical to remind black women of statistics regarding violence against black women. White women and others are not the ones who are primarily sexually abusing 60% of black girls before they reach the age of 18. It's not white women doing that. White women are not responsible for the disproportionate rates of intimate partner violence against black women. Nor are black women primarily responsible for violence against women. Women are not the ones largely responsible for the violence that we are facing. So to sum that all up, we must recognize how we are similarly impacted and our collective need for liberation. And again, that means free from male violence. Women advocating for women should realize that the world is getting more and more hostile towards women. At least it seems that way to me. So, knowing that, we should take the opportunity to draw more women into our message. Back to politics, and what I'm about to say here is not an endorsement of any candidate or party. I just want to illustrate breaking barriers further. So, even if we don't have a true friend in either party, the parties still exist. The two-party system doesn't seem to be going anywhere. So we have to utilize any party in order to work for women. Democrats and Republicans, they really seem to hate each other right now. Maybe I'm, overthinking this, but it really seems that way to me. Our society, it also seems to be becoming more and more violent. And it seems like it's going to get worse. I don't mean to be the gloom and doom, but it just seems that way. So yes, Republicans are in power, and neither party is a friend to women. I acknowledge that. That does not mean we need all our eggs in one basket. As of now, I personally doubt that Republicans will be in power in 2028, especially if Gavin Newsom is the Democratic nominee. Again, not an endorsement, it's just my hunch. So, we need to make inroads with the Democratic Party again. I know we're frustrated. I know we feel politically homeless, but we need to have an influence there, both parties. So, let's take this time to come up with a master plan. Again, I acknowledge that the Democrats are not our friends. Like, I have to keep saying that because I'm hearing, even on my Substack, any article that I write about the Democrats not being, good for women, a lot of hits. But we should not even be focused on making friends. The prize we need to keep our eye on is liberation for women. That will not occur if we do not have a presence in the Democratic Party. So, while we are sitting back complaining about not working with a politician on one issue due to their stance against abortion, you can believe other political groups are trying to place their influence everywhere while we're fighting about don't talk to them, don't talk to them. How do I know this? I'm still on a couple of listservs, and even on listservs where they're taking stances against ours, you can believe, and I'm telling you this secret, they are trying to influence all parties. We should too. As you are all aware, all women experience patriarchy, but in different ways. Acknowledging these commonalities and differences only strengthens solidarity. Ignoring the problems only creates a boiling pot of milk that will eventually be useless. White women can actively challenge racism and defend black women and other women in feminist spaces. Black women should realize that feminism isn't about following white women, it's about working together. We can listen and learn more about what white women are experiencing, and we can also defend them. We spend so much time defending men, let's defend women for once. I understand this is uncomfortable, but we must overcome the division. Women of all racial groups must speak up on behalf of all sisters. Dia Khan, whom I follow on Instagram, recently posted a clip where she explained that being a woman is far more of a provocation than anything else, and I agree with her. Think about it. As I mentioned before, a white woman would be called a racist when she dares to stand up for herself. Consider all the bullying black women face online. As a matter of fact, I left X recently because I just could not stand the misogyny war. So let's engage in each other's struggle and help each other. We can increase the visibility of radical feminist thinkers of all races. Celebrate cross-feminist leaders like Dorothy Pittman Hughes, Alice Walker, who I really, really love, and thinkers and speakers of today. We have Peachy Radfem, also Kristen Zombrowski, Aja Lyons, who did a phenomenal job yesterday, and Dr. Vierling, and I will be reading her statement in a few minutes. I cannot stress enough the importance of using data and statistics to show feminism's benefits across racial groups. Tailor outreach to meet the unique needs of diverse women. And to be clear, again, I'm not just talking to white women. Black women and other women of color have to open up as well. Speaking of Alice Walker, I really like how she explains how women all over the world and of all races are suffering under patriarchy. And let me read a little quote from one of her short stories. It's called Coming Apart, and the book is called You Can't Keep a Woman Down. So she has a bunch of different short stories, and here is Coming Apart. This is a story of presumably a middle-class black couple that includes a porn-addicted husband. I need not explain what he does while ogling the porn. First, he brings home a porn magazine filled with white women, which unsettles the wife. Walker describes her as feeling rejected because she's, well, not a white woman. She wonders if he deems her not enough or less attractive as a black woman. This is her husband. She point-blankly asks her husband why he needs the magazine, and he gaslights her with, oh, you're being a prude, you're silly, stop it. But in what I suspect is an effort to appease her, he brings home a magazine that targets, and notice I say targets because I don't respect pornography, it's not, entertainment, it's art targeting. I want to call your attention to how the black woman is portrayed in the magazine. I'm going to assume that Alice Walker did some research, so here it is. It is revealed that white women are presented as objects, while black women are presented as animals. I've listened to other anti-pornography advocates say the same thing. Animals. I won't give any examples, but one will have, if you're intellectually honest, and you all are, I think you get what I'm talking about. So, in other words, it's not just the victimization of black women that she alludes to. Another part of the short story, the couple strolls through New York City until they arrive at a window filled with plastic dolls. The dolls represented women of all races, but all in various degrading poses, but with smiles on their faces. The purpose of the smiles was to show that women, or they wanted to present that women enjoy being degraded. Knowing that a good number of men regularly consume pornography, we have to admit that it infects them and their views of all women. Now, I know this is not a new concept to all of you, but I just thought I would share that again anyway, because again, we are all suffering. Speaking of sexual exploitation, it's no secret that our enemies are fighting tooth and nail to legalize paid rape. Some in our society would call it sex work. But we have to fight their attempt to sanitize this atrocity by calling it what it is, paid rape. As I've said on my Substack and elsewhere, whoever believes sex work is work is a supporter of paid rape. So what does that mean about those who actually engage in it? What are they? Now, my words may seem harsh, I understand that, but the first step in getting a society to embrace this exploitation is to make it seem less harmful than it is. So we have to, in turn, use language that shows the public just how it's contaminating our society. So they're going to use their language, we're going to tell them the truth about what it actually is. Just a little bit more, and I'm going to go to Suzanne's statement. So let's just come up with strategies for us to work together, because we need that now more than ever. Okay, now for words from Dr. Suzanne Vierling, who is very sad about not being able to be with us. And she says, "Though I am not able to be with you in person today, I am with you in spirit. I ask you to imagine my words not as a speech delivered from a podium, but as a conversation shared heart to heart, woman to woman. We live in a time unlike any other. The fourth industrial revolution is shaping our lives with astonishing speed. Artificial intelligence, robotics, biotechnology, and digital economies redefining the very meaning of work, identity, and even life itself. Yet, here lies the truth. Technology is not destiny. Just because something can be automated, digitized, or commodified does not mean it must be. At this moment, women stand at a profound crossroads. We are the ones who can remind the world that humanity must remain at the center of innovation. This is not a new role for us. Across history, when wars raged and empires fell, when economies collapsed and cultures shifted, women carried families, tradition, and even nations forward. Our contributions were rarely written into the official record, yet, without our resilience, humanity could not have survived. That same resilience lives within each of us, each of you today. It is not weakness to endure hardship. It is the deepest form of strength. It is the quiet force that bends the arc toward history and survival, recovery, and hope. But survival is not enough. We are not here merely to endure. We are here to shape. We must ask, what kind of future do we want to create? Too often, women are broken down into parts. Our labor, our beauty, our reproduction, even our very biology, treated as commodities for sale. This is the old story repeating itself in new ways, through markets, patents, and algorithms. Yet, the truth is that women are not fragments. We are whole beings. The future must not reduce us. It must include us fully. This is why I say we are at the crossroads of innovation and humanity. It is not only engineers, governments, or corporations who decide the path forward. Women decide too, in our choices, our leadership, our solidarity. We have the power to keep humanity alive within the machinery of progress. As we consider progress, we must be mindful of the bigger picture, outsourcing to other nations AI systems that can replicate tasks once requiring human touch, and robotics that can displace entire industries and all to threaten and reshape our economies and society. If these forces are allowed to advance without the anchor of human values, they will not just change the workplace, they will change our very relationships, our communities, and our sense of purpose. This is why our voices matter now more than ever. We must be vigilant in the political arena. Midterm elections can alter the course of our progress in an instant. Gains that took decades to build can be rolled back with the stroke of a pen. We cannot be passive. For the outcomes of these elections may set us back and fracture the unity that carries us forward. Instead, we must stand together, mindful of what is at stake and determined to protect the hard-won progress that belongs to all women. So I leave you with this charge. Carry the lessons of resilience, the wisdom of history, and the wholeness of your womanhood into every space you enter. Be bold enough to say no when technology strips away your dignity. Be visionary enough to say that yes when innovation serves the flourishing of all people, and be unshakable in your commitment to keeping humanity at the center of progress. May this gathering be not only a conference, but a turning point. May you leave inspired to see yourself not as bystanders, but as guardians, innovators, and builders of a future where women are whole, where humanity is honored, and where progress serves life itself. With love and solidarity, Suzanne Vierling.
She's not here, so my question is more about her remarks than about yours. But her reference to the midterms, like, I know Suzanne's mind is like always 4 steps ahead of the game. Do you have any reflections on what she had to say about the 2026 midterms?
I think with going back to the part in her talk where things can be just undone at the stroke of a pen, I just think, not endorsing a party, but just be mindful of what, you do in the ballot box.
You talked about a strategy for women to be less divisive and work together and, brainstorming some strategies. Did you have any, anything in mind when you?
I remember when WDI, and even I think there was one with Wolf where they did some legislative advocacy in DC. I would hope to see a lot more Black women and women of color get involved in those things. Just realizing that those issues impact us too. So the political advocacy, the actions, writing together, consciousness raising, things like that.
Howdy. My comment, I just wanted to say thank you. That was so amazing to hear you speak. I've never heard you speak before, so just thank you. I guess my comment is just you gave me something to open my eyes. I've noticed the 2 groups of women that I think hate me the most right now are straight, white, liberal women, and my Black lesbian friends. And I've been called racist so much, and it's so heartbreaking. I'm like, what am I doing that's racist right now? I'm fighting for both of us.
Right.
And you just gave me the perspective of race might trump the woman aspect for them, and they're like, that's cool, but you're still a white bitch, and I don't agree with you, I support Charlie Kirk, I voted for Trump, I'm like, but I'm fighting for us. So I guess I just want to say thank you for that. I obviously am thinking about the world from my perspective, and it was very wonderful to hear your perspective, and give my friends who I love so much still grace, that I even told my friend, I'm like, listen, when I see you in heaven, I'm going to forgive you because this is crazy. We're sisters. And she responded with, you won't be there. And I was like, wow. I'm like, bro, what? Just thank you for giving me the perspective of a lens that I obviously don't have and I'm not thinking. So I just want to say thank you.
Anytime. Unfortunately, I can't deny that racism is a real thing. It is. But we've gotten to the point where we're throwing that around way too much when it's not a racist situation in every case.
Sorry, I noticed that Dr. Vierling's Twitter account is down. How can we send her well wishes?
I believe she changed her Facebook name to Suzanne Joy. She posted on one of my latest posts. Yeah. I would say maybe through Facebook. She's still there.
So I'm just going to ask one more thing on the political front. When you say we've got to make inroads with both parties, totally agree in principle. I think and lots of women in the room know, I have worked pretty hard to make some inroads with the Democratic Party.
Yes.
Wolf recently went to Congress and Senator Fetterman's chief of staff or whoever he was, kicked them out of the office and said, leave the party.
Yes.
I don't know, some women in the room probably don't know what I'm talking about, but I don't, yeah, what do we do at this point?
I was thinking more as a voter, like for example, in the last election, again, this is public on my Substack, although I voted for Kamala, I voted red down ballot. The reason why I did that is because I found that there are some candidates that are a little bit more moderate in their view. So I was thinking along the lines of support the candidates that are a little bit, they might be Republican, they might be Democrat, but they might be more to the center, rather than the extreme progressive left, like, well, I don't want to say I'm racist. I think you all know who I'm talking about in the Big Apple.
Thanks, Lorraine.
Hi, I'm still reeling from your comment about how white women are objectified, but black women are treated like animals. When I think about pornography, I'm just still reeling from that.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for bringing that to light. And when I think about what you're talking about, how can we join together? I've been listening to women in all different perspectives this weekend and having conversations with them, and the words that keep coming to mind for me are yes and.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want to give you an example of that. Some of this might be what I'm about to say, an unpopular opinion amongst women, and that's okay. I see abortion as the objectification and scapegoating of women to cover up the sins of men.
Mm.
Yes, and it is nearly impossible for women to leave abusive marriages.
Yes.
The law does not cover them. Yes, and there are thousands of rape kits not yet processed. So as we have our political perspectives, whatever they might be, how can we lean in and yes and each other? And also, how can we lift up the women who are taking the shots? And there are many of you here who I know I've never spoken to personally, but I follow you, and I just want you to know I'm cheering you on, regardless of how we might disagree. I see you taking the hits, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm wondering how, as feminists, we can sort of address the divides between women, especially gender, without sort of reifying those divides, and respectfully bring the conversation back to our shared womanhood without, erasing the real divide and the real racism that's out there.
Well, I'll take myself as an example. I had to do a lot of inner work, growing up thinking or, groomed to believe that, we can't trust white women, they're lying, they'll stab you in the back. So I had to really take stock, how many times has that happened with me? And if I can't think of too many times that has happened, maybe I have to shift my thinking and realize that maybe my elders were, I'll say mistaken. I don't want to say wrong, they're my elders. So I think it requires us to do the inner work and be honest if we might have those biases and work to rid ourselves of them.
Time for a few more questions.
I don't know if I need to but is Alice Walker, my phone died, I can't Google this. Is Alice Walker, I love her. Is she turf? Is she here? What's she doing in this?
Well, she hasn't spoken a whole lot on it, but she once made a Facebook post where she mentioned that the body is a miracle and we shouldn't change it. So based on that, I think that she is, but I guess maybe afraid to come out and say it. But that's pretty much all I have about that.
Thank you so much. I learned so much just from listening to you talk and got reminders of how sometimes we can all feel alone in this battle. So are there people that it would help if we followed on social media, or a list that then we can have really good support for each other, even in that way, to elevate voices if certain, that would help.
Dr. Vierling's subset, I don't think she's updating it just yet, but Peachy Radfem, she used to be the chief of staff in WDI. You can follow her, very, excellent writing. Aja Lyons, I'm not sure if you have a Substack. And there's also someone I forgot to mention, Nowlin. She's also on Substack. And also you can follow me as well. Look up Lorraine Nowlin on Substack. I'll come up. But yes, I would start with them.
Can you repeat I got you and Suzanne. Can you just say the other names?
The other woman is a Peachy Radfem, because she's from Georgia, Peach. And Nowlin, she has a different spelling, and I hope I get it right. Instead of, she has N3, VLYNNN, I believe.
Oh my God, you have a great memory.
I hope I have it right, because she purposely made it a different spelling like that.
You got it right.
Oh, thanks.
I have a question about the women in Afghanistan, and I follow the WDI Afghanistan. And what are people doing right now?
I've heard some things. I've heard that they're sort of like, I won't call it an underground werewolf, but they're trying to get women out of there. And there's also, I don't know if anybody would be able to send like resources for, let's say, educational resources to help the underground schools. Other than that, I'm not sure, but it's pretty low-key, I guess, for safety reasons. They don't want to say everything that they're doing. But those are just the things that I've heard. And I'm not sure which is what that is.
Do you know of any other organizations?
Women for Afghan Women. Women for Afghan Women is, I think, good. I support them. I don't know.
Yeah, there's also a WDI Afghanistan, although I don't think she's actually based in Afghanistan, but she's, that's her heritage, I believe. Her name is Yal, Y-A-L. Is it Bono, B-O-N?
Bono.
Yal Bono, yeah, she's also on Substack. Right.
And it breaks my heart that people, and we're so everything that we are doing, it's just what they're having to live through.
It's really unthinkable. It's horrible. It keeps me up at night.
We have time for one more question.
I can talk to her anytime. Is there anyone that has like a particular question that they'd like to ask?
Go for it.
Okay, thank you so much. Hi, Lorraine. Hello. Good to see you. Thank you for the shout outs. And I want to say thank you for doing all the writing that I just can't do publicly as a student. And thank you, really read her Substack, read all of her things. I just occasionally post on social media. So a few things that you noted. So yes, our elders were of course leery of white people because of the great physical and emotional harm.
Yes.
And I don't feel like you're saying that never happens.
Right.
But I do feel like it's kind of being minimized. Like, no, I think we should be leery. And I do want to say there have been white women who have actually come through the way. But we have to acknowledge there are still a lot of harms that white women do because they are conditioned by whiteness, but also because of the false illusion of safety that patriarchy gives them.
Yes.
They do feed into it. And so, when you're talking about, breaking barriers, let's come together, communication with each other, relationship, I, for one, feel as though instead of white women thinking they need to say a certain slogan or wear a certain t-shirt or do something to show that they're not one of the bad ones, I feel it's, being silent and then speaking up when you actually see something that no, you know what you're doing, stop that. That was ridiculous, don't say that.
Right.
And having conversations in rooms that we will just never access, or even when we're in those rooms, they're not going to listen to us.
Right.
For instance, I'm in academia, and white women, with tenure had conversations I didn't even know about until later I realized, oh wait, I think they did that. Things that people will just never know. The things that we'll never see. We don't know, most people don't know that during the Tulsa Race Massacre, white Jewish women hid children under their skirts. That's not going to be a common knowledge unless you're an active researcher. And so from my experience, it's no, literally just sitting and making connection and conversations with people so that when something happens, we know who to call. No, it's not some big flag waving team. And so I just wanted you to maybe speak to your perspective and experience on how, what does actually building connections and relationships tangibly look like? Because for me, it's no, I'm not going to call up a certain group. I'm going to call up individuals that I know are doing the work. Most people don't know who they are, and I'm not going to tell who they are because then they won't be able to do the work anymore because they might get attacked by people.
Yes, I'll say very, very quickly. I remember like sometimes when I would go to feminist question time and someone would bring up black maternal mortality, or even when with the Black Women's statement against gender ideology that the Black Women's Caucus wrote a couple of years ago, there were still some white women that are saying things like, oh, why are we talking about race? Well, black women and I remember this comment, black women have maternal mortality issues because they're overweight. I remember seeing comments like that in feminist question time. So, it can be exhausting speaking out against that, but if you're a white woman, challenge that. Just say no. And also, something that I want to say before I close down completely, white women, when you hear your male counterparts blaming the entire black race, and also including us women, as far as things like black crime and all that kind of stuff, challenge it, please. Because again, as I said in my talk, black women are not the ones largely responsible for violence against women. Whether it's that poor Ukrainian girl that was killed on the train, horrible. That was male violence.